Welcome back from break. As you can see, we're now moving from disrupting the flow of illicit money to disrupting illicit logistics. Even the world's most underground illicit networks can't avoid the reality that they still have to use licit nodes to move their goods, from airports to canals to borders to ports. And there's no better person to talk to us about the challenges of disrupting the logistics of illicit networks than the Interpol Secretary General, Ron Noble. Ron Noble is in his, I think, 15th year as Interpol's Secretary General. He's the first American and the youngest person ever to serve in this role. He oversees the 190 member state organization, which is best thought of as the closest thing the world has to the global police. To introduce our panel and lead this discussion, please join me in welcoming Interpol Secretary General Ron Noble.
We have a distinguished panel. I'm going to introduce His Excellency Ahmed Butti Ahmed, Executive Chairman of Ports, Customs, and Free Zones, Director General for Dubai Customs.
Good afternoon.
Assalamu alaikum.
Good afternoon, everybody.
And has a smile that just makes you melt, okay? It just makes you melt. Next, it's my honor to introduce Arif Alikhan, Deputy Executive Director, Law Enforcement and Homeland Security, LA World Ports. It seems that all of my co-panelists have smiles that make you melt, okay? Finally, Antonio Michel, Executive Manager, Canal Protection and Emergency Response at Panama Canal. So in the very, very impressive video we saw, there were 3 questions that were raised that might have gone so quickly you might not have caught them, but they're really going to be the focus of our discussion here today. One is, how do we keep track of what is inside the containers circulating through ports, both airports and seaports? How can we disrupt illicit trade without disrupting licit trade? And is everyone carrying what they say they are? Now, today's panel, we've got an opportunity really to cover the spectrum. To my immediate left here, we have a head of a national authority that regulates and controls ports, both air and sea, customs, and free zones. To his left, we have the head of Homeland Security and Law Enforcement at the largest origination and destination airport in the world. And to his left, we have the head of Canal Protection and Emergency Response, where 5% of the world commerce passes each and every year. Those questions are not questions that are academic for my panelists. These are questions that they confront each and every day when they decide whether to act or not act in slowing down this amount of global trade that we see in order to determine whether people are carrying what they say they are, containers contain what they say they contain, and whether or not we are at risk in one way or another. So, Your Excellency, I'd like to start with you. A long career you've had in working in ports and leading ports. Over the 20 or 25 years that you've been doing this, give us an idea of the kind of growth that Dubai Ports has experienced.
Well, when I started in 1989, we are handling approximately about 600,000 TEUs, 20 equivalent units of containers. The air cargoes, approximately about 110,000 ton. Today, the air cargoes more than 2 million ton. And the containers, the containers which goes through the ports, over 15 million TEUs, or containers. That is a huge growth when you look at during this period of time. And definitely we have so much challenges nowadays.
So I've been through Dubai Airport on many occasions, and I feel as though I'm always being watched. Not because I'm Secretary General of Interpol, but just because I'm one of the millions of passengers that pass through the airport. If it's not a state secret, can you give us an idea of the number of CCTVs you have spread out throughout the airport and where they're located?
Well, you know, we have cameras every corner on the airports because the airport is so huge. It's handling yearly more than 60 million passengers. We do have our central station, which is monitoring all the passengers, either in transit or arrival. Also, we have our undercover people, which is they are dressed like travelers, and they are in the among of everybody, either in the transit area as well as on the arrival area. So to see, and they are well trained in body language. And the cameras from the control room, they are communicating with these undercover people, which is down, and these cameras is just keep tracking everybody, and to see anything unusual, or you know, because everybody is well trained on body language, so they see anything unusual or any exchange or any weird or strange react from these travelers, then they instruct one of these undercover just to keep following, and they communicate, and where is that guy? And then we ask them to check and so forth. And that's, you know, like one of the process.
Okay. What about, just to give an idea of the number of people or the different types of screening you engage in, am I correct that every passenger who enters Dubai Airport to fly to any destination is screened? He or she screened, is that correct?
That's right.
Their carry-on luggage is screened?
That's right.
All checked luggage is screened?
Yes.
What about cargo on passenger planes? All of it screened?
All yes.
And what about all cargo on cargo planes? All of it screened?
Yes. Everything that goes in the plane and coming from the plane, it's screened. Human or cargos.
Okay, we're looking for gaps, areas that illicit traffickers, transnational organized crime would take advantage of. If I wanted to go through Dubai Airport and not be screened, how would I do it?
Yes, yes, you can do it. You know, there is, you know, like, there is always a way of doing it. So I'm going to tell the secret.
And then you'll change the system tomorrow, right? Okay, tell us.
So sometimes people traveling from X country, because see, Dubai, it's known, it's very tight in security. And we work very closely with Homeland Security. We work very closely with most of the European customs, and they know how we are handling the securities and how tight it is. So when a passenger's coming from Dubai, he doesn't get that much check on airports in Europe, because they knew
he's come from Dubai.
He's coming from Dubai, and he's being screened and being checked,
right.
So they don't worry about that much. So these people, what they do, for example, he is coming from X country. We're not going to mention any countries, but X country is coming. He's carrying drugs with him in a suitcase. He comes to Dubai, his tickets, his flights, everything, destination is Dubai. When he reaches in Dubai, he goes to the transfer counter of the airline, say, well, something urgent, I have to go to Europe. Could you please switch my suitcase to Europe and change my tickets so I can go to Europe? So he is initiated now his travel from Dubai. So what they do, then the airlines will switch the cargo to on the flight. By the time they switch it to the flights, it's already, the cargo will miss the flight. And his suitcase will remain in Dubai because it will come to the arrival belt, and from the arrival belt has somebody to collect it and then put it back again. So the suitcase will catch the next flight, while he is already traveled to his own destination. Next day, he go to the airport in Europe or any place to the lost and found. He said, well, I lost my suitcase and so on and so. Already he put that claim when he arrived. So he goes next day. So then, this way he get away from the custom inspections. So he go there, lost and found, he get his suitcase, and he walk away. We caught a few of these people because through our risk engine. Because our risk engine is always tracking the people and travelers and all these things. And we have a linkage with the airlines and to track also all the passengers, their routes. We are applying this at the port for the cargoes, so we are applying it as well as at the airports. So anybody try to change his itinerary at the airports, immediately it will trigger our system. Somebody is changing. So what do? We keep everything, we keep it quiet, we let the guy change. And
we're not keeping quiet anymore. Okay. We're not keeping quiet anymore. We're telling them, okay, please, go ahead.
No, okay. Our technique, so we just let it go. So we screen, then we get his suitcase, we screen it, we check it. If there is something we find inside, we inform his final destination, the custom there, this passenger so and so, and we give them all the details, the information. So the guy reached there, he get out, he put his claim that he lost his suitcase, and they will get next day. Suitcase will arrive there. Next day, the custom people are waiting for him to surprise him about what his act.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Arif, was I correct in saying that LAX is the #1 airport in the world in terms of origination and destination passengers?
That's correct.
About how many per year?
Well, last year in 2011, we had 61 million passengers come through Los Angeles. That makes it actually the 6th busiest in the world. The distinction is, however, is what you mentioned, origination and destination. What does that mean? We have more people who start and end their trips here in Los Angeles than any other airport in the world, even those that may have more passengers. For example, Atlanta Hartsfield has about 90 million passengers a year, but many of them are transiting through to catch other flights. The reason that's significant when it comes to illicit networks, it means that the items that are trying to be smuggled, the people that are trying to be smuggled are either starting or ending here. And from a security standpoint, it makes it a little bit difficult because so many people are coming into the airport who may not have been screened or who may not know much about them. And that makes it somewhat of a challenge whether you're trying to screen for people or goods as part of an illicit network.
Now, His Excellency said that in Dubai, they screen 100% of passengers, carry-on, and checked luggage originating in Dubai. What about at LAX, if you can share with us?
Sure. Well, the Transportation Security Administration, TSA, who I'm sure you've all had very good experiences with. And by the way, I should say welcome to Los Angeles. I am the only city official here, and I do not have control of TSA, our good friends. But yes, TSA regulations, especially after 9/11, require 100% screening of passengers, and all of you go through that when you go into the terminal, and as well as your baggage being screened by machines to look for explosives, either at the curbside or what we call inline baggage systems, so it goes through the system to do that.
And what about Go, please, please.
Oh, I was going to say, and also cargo.
Yep.
Oftentimes people forget the primary use of the aviation system, especially in the United States, is passengers, which makes it a little different than any seaport, which is mostly about cargo at much larger containers. However, there is a great deal of cargo that is on airplanes that may not be the baggage that you checked in for that flight. For example, Los Angeles International had 1.8 million tons of cargo last year, and that could be your FedEx packages, US mail, or other items. Those are also screened. I think the issue, though, is when we talk about screen, that means different things to different people. What are you screening for? Are you screening for everything in the whole spectrum of illicit networks, counterfeit merchandise, drugs, explosives, et cetera? Obviously, our first priority in the aviation sector is against things that could kill people. Bring the plane down, could be used as a weapon of mass destruction by either taking over the plane or a bomb of some sort of explosive that could crash the plane and cause horrific death and destruction.
My brother, Antonio, please give us an idea of the volume of traffic that goes to the Panama Canal on an annual basis.
Okay, well, the Panama Canal is one of the most important choke points worldwide, and we manage 5% of the entire world commerce crossed through the Panama Canal. If it is more than 14,000 vessels per year.
14,000 vessels per year.
14,000 vessels per year. That include containers, passengers, car carriers, tankers, dry bulk carriers, jets.
Okay, help us for a second understand when you say a container ship.
Yeah.
Give us an idea of how large it is or how many containers it contains so we can have an idea of the challenge confronting you.
Okay, well, as His Excellency mentioned, we measure containers based in TU, which is a 20 equivalent unit. It's the half of a regular container that we could see in the street.
So give me an idea of the stage for this stage. Would it be the size of the...
Will be 40 feet long.
40 feet long.
Yeah. One container.
One container.
So, a vessel could carry 4,500 TUs, which is TU is a half of a container.
Right.
That's the unit that is used to measure containers.
4,500 TUs
exactly
per container ship.
That's correct, with the existing canal.
With the existing canal.
Exactly. Right now we are in the project to enhance the capacity of the Panama Canal.
And that means what when you say enhance the capacity of the canal?
Will be more than 12,000 TUs. So we will triple the capacity
per ship.
Per ship, exactly.
Okay. Now we've heard about the screening that occurs in Dubai and the screening that occurs in LAX. Give us an idea of the kind of screening you perform of the ships passing through.
Yeah, well, when we talk about screening, as Arif mentioned, screening is different. In the maritime industry, it's totally different than the air industry. 90% of the cargo that is moved around the world is moved through water.
90%.
90%. So there's no way that you could screen all those containers enter in a country.
Right.
For instance, the United States can only screen, physically check everything, 5% of the entire cargo entering in this country. And that's the biggest amount.
That's 5%.
5%.
And you said you have over 14,000 vessels.
Exactly.
Many of these vessels are container ships containing 4,500 TUs per vessel.
Yes, so what we do is that what everybody's doing is working on information and intelligence and sharing that information, because if you start stopping all the vessels, you will affect the trade, which is the reason of having this huge network to supply all the goods to different ways.
Do you work for a law enforcement agency?
Well, the Panama Canal is an autonomous entity.
A business?
Yes, and we work as a business.
And do ships pay to have the privilege of using the canal?
That's correct, per transit.
And you must have a lot of pressure to make sure the ships keep moving.
That's correct.
What about when you get intelligence that suggests one of these ships in one of these containers might have some illicit product, what kind of powers do you have?
Well, we could stop the vessel. As a matter of fact, what we do daily is that we receive information from the vessel with 96 hours in advance. That includes passenger list, crew list, 10 previous port of call, next port of call,
Okay,
location of the cargo. And
slower
based on
for
that,
us.
we do
Slower
a
for
risk
us.
management.
Slower for us. You get 96 hours beforehand. You get a
Yes.
passenger list,
Yeah,
crew list,
that's correct.
the cargo,
Yes,
the previous 10 ports,
Yeah.
and the port of destination.
exactly.
Right? 96 hours.
Yes.
And what do you do with this information?
Well, we have a risk matrix. Based on that risk matrix, we could take different course of action. Require more information, we can inspect the vessel, escort the vessel, or stop the vessel. We have done all of those. So if we have an information or the metrics indicate that we have to stop the vessel, we could do it. But we have to be aware or that if we don't find any, what we were looking for, that could be drugs or guns, the vessel is another business, so they could sue the canal if we affect them in their transit.
I'm trying to understand if your business is making sure the ships go through.
Yeah,
And most of these ships don't stop in Panama to unload. They just keep going.
like a highway.
Highway. What would be your interest to actually stop one of those ships? Why would you actually stop the ship rather than saying, it's not my problem, just keep going through?
Well, it's a global business, and if we allow those illicit cargo or person transit the canal, we will be affecting other countries. But besides that, we will be affecting the business, because once that vessel reaches to another port, they will say, okay, this vessel was contaminated and it passed through the Panama Canal. So the canal allows them to cross with this illicit cargo or person. So we have to do all our effort to avoid that.
Understood.
Yeah.
Your Excellency, you're a visionary and you're very creative and you're also very, very tough, I'm told. I don't believe it from my personal experience, but this is what Interpol intelligence tells us. Have you ever thought about just buying the equipment in order to screen every container that comes to Dubai? Have you ever thought about that? Screening every container?
Yeah. Well, I just want to highlight the way we do the check just before to come to that one, to that part. At the airports, we have many lines of machines, few machines there, and everything is fully automated. It comes from the aircraft, the cargoes, straight goes to the conveyor belt, straight to these X-ray machines in different lines, okay, so that the passengers, he doesn't have to wait long for the luggage or their luggage to come. And we have, through our control room, we have so many screens, and everything, it comes on their screens. So if there is anything is not right, just click a button, and that will go different direction, and something will be put on that luggage. So when the person is taking his luggage, it will the lights will go red. So they will take him on the side. So they will not delay anybody, and that is very important for us, because we are not only just thinking of security. We have to hold the stick from the middle. We have to focus on security as well as facilitate business and facilitate traveler and visitors. That's very key, important, that I would like to highlight.
But I'm focusing on the seaports. I want to know about these big 40-foot containers, where there are 15 million of them that passed through your ports last year. I'm asking whether you ever thought about...
Yes, we had machines, few different type of machines, or few machines, and these machines should be very sophisticated, which goes 150 containers an hour for scanning as well as radiation. But unfortunately, we say we're going to try that. Just to give you the number of containers which goes out of the gate, between 6,000 to 7,000 containers per day. And And that, like to screen such things like that, it's a nightmare. So, I have very close relation with the Homeland Security here. And they said, Ahmed, like we have to do screen as much as we can, and we have to increase not just like 10 or 15%, but we should do more. I said, okay, now we have very sophisticated X-ray machines, can take this number, so let's start. So believe me, when I start this, Jabal Ali is approximately about, Jabal Ali Free Zone, approximately about 10 square kilometers. And these roads, it's filled with trucks. You don't see the end of it. It was a nightmare. It was screaming from everybody. So it takes us hours just to let these trucks to move. It's not easy.
So it's fair for us to say that our goal in terms of choke points shouldn't be to try to use technology to screen every cargo container, seaport-wise, around the world. That should not be our goal from a technology perspective. Do you agree with that?
Yes. What we did, like we knew that, like it's very difficult. You see, like when you ask me the first question, I was before, like 25 years ago, that, the people is not that much sophisticated. They are not much, like the illicit network they are not sophisticated, not so much intelligent. The network is not there. The communication, the internet, all kind of sort of communication is not anymore, not available at that time. It's just started. And, so the connection between them and other of their groups of followers in different countries, it's not that strong. So it's very easy and manageable. But when you come today, we are in the 21st century, very sophisticated, people well connected, they have people everywhere, they know everything what's happening, they use all the techniques to pass their illicit goods through any ports, and they're using their own ways of doing it. For us, we believe that technology is very important with such a huge number of containers. We develop a risk engine. This risk engine, we keep feeding it with a lot of information. This information can come from different sources, from our business, from all the stakeholders that they are using the ports. So this information, a lot of it's fed, and a lot of information from Interpol, a lot of information from the police, from other customs.
Thank you for saying that. Thank you for saying from Interpol.
It's true, because we are linked with the Interpol.
Yeah, thank you for saying that too.
Okay.
This is the one part we did rehearse, was at some point he had to say that we're linked with Interpol. But the fact is they're more connected now, and information travels through these illicit networks much faster now than it did 20 years ago. So we can't screen all the cargo containers. What's the solution then?
Well,
how can technology help us disrupt these illicit trafficking networks?
Well, technology obviously is an important part of that, but I think it depends on what you want the technology to do. If you look at it, just back to what you were talking about, the 100%, there's a pretty, people often think that, well, if you screen everything 100%, we're safer. I actually challenge that, and here's why. The importance of a port is that so much of traffic, whether it's people or goods, are all coming through a funnel, a controllable point. And in the United States, where we have a lot of legal authority to do searches, questioning, et cetera. But the problem with that also is you've increased the volume at a very local part. Screening 100% doesn't necessarily mean you're screening thoroughly 100%, because obviously the purpose of a port or an airport is to enable people or goods to travel. And if you really want to make it secure, we would actually shut that down. But we can't. And the goal is to be able to have flows of goods and people done securely. If you think about after 9/11, one of the best rules that was immediately implemented after 9/11 was when TSA, or the US government, FAA and DOT at the time, said you could not go past the metal detectors, the screening checkpoints, unless you had a ticket. Now, why was that good? Because it immediately cut the number of people who had to be screened. And no longer could you, when you walk off the plane and your family's there waving to you with the signs, well, at least my family did, we're Indian, and so that no longer happened. But the good thing is, all of a sudden, you were able to reduce the number of people who actually had to be searched and therefore could be searched more thoroughly. If you mandate 100% screening for every possible threat or illicit item, you're actually stretching what we know are limited resources thin. And the key where technology comes in is on the intelligence and information sharing. Because if we know in Los Angeles, let's say at the port, that there is a shipping container that's coming through the canal or from Dubai that needs more scrutiny, we can focus on that and be much more risk. The challenge with aviation is, unlike the ports where these ships take quite some time to come and they get manifest 96 hours, we could have somebody who's suspicious or who's somehow gotten on a plane that'll be here in about 15 minutes. Gotcha. And how do we deal with that?
Would you agree, Antonio, that the focus should be using technology to gather more effectively intelligence, to analyze the intelligence that's gathered more effectively, rather than finding a technological solution to screening more containers or more objects or more persons?
Yes, definitely yes, because even when we receive a manifest of cargo, and the maritime industry is based on trust and faith, so we could receive a manifest of cargo and we could screen it and could be everything okay, but those bad guys, they will not put in the manifest of cargo that they are carrying guns or... So they have to be based on intelligence. So the key will be risk analysis and information sharing. We have to and the technology is already there. We have to use the advantage of the technology to expedite the way how we do our risk analysis and to share information quickly and accurate with the ports, with the airlines, with all the participants of the supply chain. Each one has to do their part. If we share information from the person that is selling the goods, going to the warehouse, the shipper, liners, all of them, until the person that's going to receive the good, if each segment do their job, I think we could close that gap. We have been lagging. The bad guys, we have been reacting. They are very innovative. So we have to take advantage of this experiment that Google is doing for us and try to end with a great solution that helps us do a type of forecast like we do for marketing, but for security.
Right. You mentioned a risk engine. And I want to just share with our audience, and this is going to be on YouTube as well, so I want to make sure it gets really widely publicized. Give us examples of the kinds of unusual activity or unusual events that lead you to inspect one shipper or one broker in order to determine whether or not they're engaged in illicit trafficking. Can you share some of that with us, please?
Sure. The risk engine, it's a combination of information that we gather this information from our multiple stakeholders, like business to government, government to business, business to government, and custom to customs. We collect a lot of information, like for clearance of cargoes, the routes of that cargoes, the kind of cargo. So all this information is fed with our risk engine. Our risk engine is linked with our X-rays machines. So when we receive the manifest, we know that that ship, if it's taken different routes, then it will trigger in our risk engine, okay, we have to inspect certain goods because that container is moving from one port to another port. That's one thing. Other things, like, for example, if somebody is doing certain business, and suddenly we see the volume of that business is increasing, then we put another question mark, so it has to be checked why that is happening and what's the reason behind it. If he's changing the business, why is being changed? It's just only for security purpose, why these things happening? So whatever the traders, he divert from the normal practice, what he is doing, then it will trigger our risk engine, and our people will go and investigate and check. There is a lot of people, what they do, and we manage and we caught a few of these cargoes. It will come from one country to another country to another country, and especially when they are smuggling sometimes drugs or which used for this nuclear plants and all this. They use different routes to reach to their places. Plus, not only that, they change the manifest. They change the manifest. And sometimes you see a company, they are in a certain type of business, and you see they are importing completely something is different. And that's where we have to check.
So in the minutes that's remaining, Arif, if Google Ideas or Google said they would give you whatever you wanted. Jared, I'm not supposed to ask this question, but I'll get an answer. If they would give you whatever you wanted in order to make technology an ally in fighting illicit trafficking, what would you ask for?
I would, in all seriousness, I think the benefit you get from technology companies like Google and others is the analytical capability. Technology, especially since 9/11, has been seen as the solution for many things. And you see a lot more technology at airports, at ports to detect. You gave the example of the cameras. At LAX, we have thousands of CCTV cameras to track you and your wonderful smile. And so, but how many people can you get to actually watch them? The analytics to be able to take that information, whether it's data sharing or video feeds, and enable human beings who ultimately have to respond is critical.
Great. And we saw the great power of Palantir and the analytical tools they have. Could I have a round of applause for this distinguished panel? Thank you.